So, Christy, tell the audience like a little bit about you and maybe like how you got into massage and then education.
Well, I love the question about how I got into it. My grandmother was a massage therapist. I'm a third generation
Wow.
therapist. So when I was in high school, there was an assignment, what do you want to be when you grow up, basically. So I was talking to my grandmother about it. We call her Gami because the first grandchild couldn't pronounce granny like she wanted to be, so she's a Gami. So I talked to Gami and asked her what she thought I'd be good at, and she told me about this great lady that she learned from, Susan Salvo, and that she really knew her stuff, and she thought that I would be a great massage therapist. So I went, and here I am. And now there's 7 therapists in my family. My grandmother, my mother, me, and, aunts, uncle, and a cousin.
Wow.
So we're a very loving group.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a lot in a single family. I don't think I've ever heard of that before, not in the same way. So you essentially were raised with massage.
I wouldn't say raised because my mother actually went to school after me.
Yeah.
But my grandmother was the first. She went with her sister. And so I was familiar with it. And it just looked like something really cool that I just wanted to do. I wanted to be able to comfort people. It looked powerful in that way, just to be able to offer some support. And so as soon as I graduated high school, I went straight to massage school in Lake Charles, owned by Susan at the time. And so I was 17, so it's all that I've
Is that
ever
Susan
done,
Salvo,
really.
by the way?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I was grateful to have, studied under her, and, I'm grateful to still call her a mentor to this day. She's been, instrumental in every part of my career.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm grateful to call her my friend.
Yeah, I only met Susan in person at the AMTA convention in El Paso. She's supposed to come on the podcast, I think, in a couple months. I talked to her about it briefly, so it'll be kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. I originally got my license in Louisiana, and I've had, I don't know, I keep having and losing licenses in Louisiana because of regulatory stuff and, paperwork, but it's always interesting dealing with regulation from state to state. And then I don't know as much about like Susan's history either. Like I see her name around, but I don't know much.
Well, she's a powerhouse. I mean, she's written several massage therapy textbooks, pathology books. She's an educator, and she has a doctorate in education. She's really just a spectacular human and a very bright lady. I have a lot of respect for her.
Yeah. So for you, I took a quick look at your website. It looked like you were teaching cupping and some other techniques. How did you, after having such a family involved in massage, how did you get involved in education and then like what you're teaching specifically? I
just found a love for it over time. Susan actually, a few years after I graduated, she asked me if I'd be interested in teaching at the school. And so I just, developed a love for it. And it's honestly the best. I think it's the best job in the world. There's nothing that I would rather do, as a job than being in a classroom.
You like it more than doing sessions?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I like connecting with clients. I still, am a massage therapist. I still do have clients. But, over time, my focus is shifting more toward education and in gaining my own as well. So I'll graduate with a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I plan to graduate in December, and then I'll go on to Lamar for mental health counseling. So there's just something about the classroom on both sides of the podium that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I think I was doing Thai massage, and then I just knew, like, I'm only going to be working on one person at a time unless I start teaching this. It was completely unavailable, so I was like, all right, time to teach.
Yeah.
I know it, I can do it, let's go. And have kind of, I don't know, like I still see clients, but it's not a massive focus. There's not a lot of social media push. I'm not running ads for clients or anything. I'm trying to increase education and have teachers underneath my, moniker of Next Level Pain Relief and continue to build. There's a huge market. Massage related, like education and business stuff, is probably more interesting to me than body work at this point. And when I'm dealing with students, I'm starting to notice that they can pick up the body work itself, but because what I'm teaching is clothes on and mat based, they have a little bit more of a challenge trying to wrap their brain around like the packaging and marketing and sales and the way that it's different. They're like, man, this really is like a different service. And I go, yes.
As far as you asked about the classes that I choose to teach, I usually write classes around what students are asking me for. So I tend to choose things that help to save therapists' hands. So I like cupping and taping for that reason. And if the client wants it, following, evidence-informed practice, I'm not making any claims. I like cupping because it feels good. And if someone knows how to apply that method, I'll be grateful. So I usually choose those classes based on need, and then I have included in every PowerPoint standards of care for our practice. So I'll go into evidence-informed practice. I'll teach a little bit that I know about research literacy and documentation, just to make sure that people who have been in our industry for a while, I don't know that it was always taught. And I think that some people need to be reminded what the standards of care are, and to make sure that we are adhering to those and not going out of our scope of practice. So there's a section in every class that includes that, because I think it's important to make sure that people know the levels of evidence, and not everything is created equal, and at least give it a shot, to try not to, which, I've seen less and less pushback on Facebook. I feel bad for like Alice, and I can't remember her last name, but she was just really fighting for, Jason Erickson and just people who are trying to help people, the long list of people trying to help us to get rid of some of those old notions. And I feel like people are starting to catch on. Because of their work.
Facebook group admins get what they deserve. And I'm an admin of many groups. It drives me absolutely insane. So the science-informed side of the bodywork community just needs better marketing. Like science in general in the United States. I was asked by somebody at the AMTA what I was most shocked by. And I went, the fact that the American public generally does not like science. And it's like, that includes massage therapists who are like, no, I want to do my healing work. And I'm like, okay, cool, that's cool. But, what about science? And they're like, nope, don't like science. And I'm like, you're using space technology to communicate with me on Meta about how you don't like science. All right.
I once read a quote. I saw a quote. It read, "It's difficult to get a man to understand something when his paycheck depends on him not understanding it." Yeah. And there was a time that I was very guilty of perpetuating those old rumors, or whatever you want to call them, notions. But thanks to, leaders in the industry, and just being open and being okay with being wrong, being okay with not knowing.
Yeah, one of the worst things I can do as a former philosophy student is I was totally comfortable after years of college education going, what is the good? What is? And not having an answer. Like it's not like engineering, like you got to get this right or things fall apart. So when I'm in classes, I'll ask questions, which is not a very fun way for people to learn in America. They're not interested in my questions. Does it make sense? I'm comfortable asking questions, and when I get to the edge of my knowledge base, I feel like Socrates just walking around the agora, just let's ask questions. Me and Plato hanging out. The students do not like that. Western education, the way it's doled out in America currently, is very like top down. We tell you what the truth is, and you regurgitate the information. It's not a place to like ask questions. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the students are like, well, what do I do? And I go, communicate with the client. And they're like, oh, can't you just tell me what to do? And I'm like, the problem is if I choose two techniques, one technique's going to work for one client and not for the other.